Welcome back to the Artificial Sweeteners Show. I'm just kidding, but it seems like we talk about this every week. This week, we're talking about artificial sweeteners, and do they make you fat or do they help you get lean? But first, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment for the algorithm. So a recent meta-analysis got published on the effects of artificial sweeteners, or they call them non-nutritive sweeteners because technically stevia is not artificial. The effects of non-nutritive sweeteners on body weight, fat mass, and a few other markers like leptin. We'll just go ahead and jump to the conclusion, which was non-nutritive sweeteners helped reduce body weight and body fat. Why is that important? Well, in other meta-analysis, there have been conclusions that non-nutritive sweeteners may contribute to weight gain. In fact, I hear this all the time. Well, look at the studies that show that non-nutritive sweeteners increase body weight. Not really. So once again, people don't understand study designs, and they'll say things like, I don't trust science because one study shows one thing, another study shows another thing. Almost 99.9% of the time, when there are conflicting results in studies, when I go into the methods and I read the methods and I read the full text of the paper, I'm able to pretty easily spot why they found differences. So in this case, why do some studies conclude that non-nutritive sweeteners increase body weight, but studies like this show it decreases body weight? Well, it's simply due to the differences in study design. So first off, this was a meta-analysis, which is basically they are combining the results of a bunch of different studies, and they have certain inclusion criteria. In previous studies that found that non-nutritive sweeteners may contribute to body weight gain, those were what was called epidemiological studies. So where they're either comparing groups who consume artificial sweeteners or don't consume them, or they're looking at cohorts of people that consume them over time and see what happens. Now, the big difference with these studies is they are not randomized, which means there's no intervention. They're just observing what people do and observing what happens. So what they find in many of these studies is people who consume non-nutritive sweeteners are more likely to have higher body weight versus people who don't. But this is confounded by the fact that many obese and overweight people who are looking to lose weight will use non-nutritive sweeteners to try to lose weight. Is it an effect of non-nutritive sweeteners cause weight gain, or is it an effect of people who are higher in body weight are more likely to consume non-nutritive sweeteners? And indeed, we see in the scientific literature that people who consume non-nutritive sweeteners on average have more weight loss attempts than people who don't. So what was different about this study? Well, this was a meta-analysis of human randomized control trials. Now, why is randomization important? Well, if you have people who are choosing to consume non-nutritive sweeteners versus choosing not to, that is not randomized and is subject to bias because people who are consuming non-nutritive sweeteners may also choose to do other behaviors that are not controlled for. Whereas when you randomize humans into different groups, basically that randomization process is drastically reducing the bias, because when you randomize, you can assume that any kind of differences in characteristics or other characteristics other than the thing that you are testing are going to be randomly spread across the groups. You can therefore assume that any difference between the groups is going to be due to the effects of the treatment rather than some inherent difference in these individuals. This meta-analysis was looking at randomized control trials where they were using non-nutritive sweeteners versus, say, just continuing to have people do their normal thing. And of course, they found that in this case, non-nutritive sweeteners were effective at reducing body weight, body fat. They did show that they also lost some lean mass as well. However, please keep in mind that these people were not necessarily resistance training. In fact, my guess is most of these people weren't, and it wasn't part of the inclusion criteria. So when people lose weight and don't resistance train, they almost always lose some lean mass as well, so that's not surprising. So I don't think non-nutritive sweeteners are a cause of lean mass loss. I think the lean mass loss is simply a byproduct of the weight loss. And if these people were doing weight training, it'd be very unlikely they'd be losing more lean mass than people who didn't consume non-nutritive sweeteners. And they also looked at leptin, and they found that non-nutritive sweeteners really didn't affect leptin levels compared to people who didn't consume them. So again, take-home message is non-nutritive sweeteners, when used as a substitute for sugar-sweetened beverages, appear to cause weight loss and loss of body fat, not because they're some kind of magical fat burner, but because people simply consume less calories when they use these things. And even when compared to water, a recent network meta-analysis demonstrated that water, replacing sugar-sweetened beverages with water, was not effective at reducing body weight, whereas replacing them with non-nutritive sweeteners was. Now, why is that? Well, probably because non-nutritive sweeteners appear to have a positive effect on appetite, in that they reduce appetite, whereas people who are substituting water for sugar-sweetened beverages appear to be replacing those calories elsewhere by pursuing that sweet taste from something else. People who use non-nutritive sweeteners apparently are not trying to replace that sweet taste anywhere else. They're just, again, substituting out those sugar-sweetened beverages with non-nutritive sweetened beverages. If you want to reduce body weight, non-nutritive sweeteners can be a useful tool for that. You don't have to use them. I don't think they're better than water in terms of anything physiological. It's just that people consume them, tend to eat less calories. All right, guys, if you like these research breakdowns, make sure you check out my research review, Reps. That is research explained with practical summaries. Every month we review 5 studies in fitness and nutrition that are popular and relevant to my audience, which I assume wants to build muscle and lose fat. So we break these down in a way that's palatable and easy for anyone to understand, even if you don't have a scientific background. And when you sign up for Reps, you get access not just to our current issue, but all of our previous issues and our 50-page ebook on how to read research, so that we don't just give you a fish, we'll teach you how to fish, so that you can help separate what's BS from what's legit. Click the link in the description, and I'll catch you guys next week.